I started exploring sound in 2000.
Okay.
And probably really got involved with sound in maybe 2001. Yeah, I'm a sculptor, and at my core, I'm a sculptor and a visual artist. And I've always been very sensitive to sound and have a lot of memory from, ages and ages ago. And so I thought that that was kind of interesting, and I wanted to bring sound into the work as a sculptural volume. Well, this is the first piece I feel that really fully wedded sound and sculpture. I made a number of sculptural pieces that also had sound environments with them, but this is the first one where I really felt that the two were married together, that they're locked together like a warp and weft in a fabric. And I've been doing more successful sound pieces since I began this one. Well, there's a lot of components to it. It originally started as the idea of a really huge helmet. And like the black curtains that are behind us, it originally started as the idea of, instead of walking into a room where you'd have a video and sound or something and taped off by these black curtains, you would walk into a large, huge sculpture. So I then broke it down into the smaller components. And then I really got solidly into that idea. I also worked with the idea of them being circles of helmets facing each other and having a dialogue with each other, but I then settled on the sort of the more confrontational aspect of it. You could choose to go either way, but I went this way because it resonated with what I wanted to say. And so I think the helmets typically, you are really confronted by them, and there's this phalanx of these helmets, and they go back in space, and you have this sense of, at least to me, the many. It implies the many. I hope that people have a sense when they're standing in that field, the sense of their ancestors and maybe the sense of their progeny, and having a sense of a timelessness and sort of a continuous, people continuing on with their families historically. Two things, I guess, because they were helmets, at some point I decided that the sound should be vocals. Originally I had thought about other things, but then it really seemed appropriate that it should be about the human voice because it was the head. And of course, in all of this body work, and most particularly here, the body's not present, but it is always implied. So there's the helmets, and then the sense of armor, and really the sense of, armor's there to keep you alive for the day, right? And if you get out from under it, you live another day. But the whole notion of armor is also one that's, what's shut in and what's shut out. And that's not just a person, that's like ideas. That's the whole notion of the other, and, it's the issue of humanity as a collective, whether people resonate with each other as, a collective. It's so easy to identify someone else as the other, and then sort of have negative feelings, right? We all know this, and this just seems to be a perennial thing with us. So I'm interested in that, and lost experiences when people create too many boundaries and fortresses around themselves, and then you take that out to the macro level, and societies that suddenly don't give visas to people to do research in your country because you're too busy keeping people out. If you think about Holland in the 17th century, one of the reasons why it flourished so dramatically and why you have the flourishing of the arts, Rembrandt, Vermeer, and you name it, is because it was a very open society, and people were able to come in from everywhere and bring all their knowledge, their talent, their energy, their enthusiasm to the table. And that's, of course, what America, has been known for. And now there's a little bit of I don't know. We're still negotiating what this new space is, and it's complex, and I think we've seen various kind of things that affect that. Also, the shadows on the floor are very, very important, and they create sort of a symbol on the floor, but you really don't know what it is. And so Wappen in German means, like a Wappenschild is a coat of arms, and in German you have the ability to have a word and then you can attach other words to it. And so it becomes a more nuanced meaning or a more complex meaning. So Wappenschild, of course, being a family crest, a coat of arms, and so everyone gets to know which family you belong to. Are you the Capulets or the Montagues? Are you the Mods or the Rockers? So those things play with the notion of people identify themselves and maybe signals that they send subconsciously that they don't know what they're communicating about themselves and their being. And so the idea of this logo, or the shadow on the floor, sort of forms this kind of potential logo, which is unidentified, but the idea of, well, what is this logo and what is this team? So Wappen, to me, I mean, and that goes back to all the way back to, let's say, Middle European, where you have the guild, you have your religious group, you have your community, your church, your clan, all those kind of tribal elements. And then now, of course, everyone wears branded clothing like it's going out of style. So there's that whole notion of branding. And so I hope that this piece somehow connects to that as well.